Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about my research on generative AI, which most of you know by now through ChatGPT. So these days, we all see a lot of headlines about AI all the time in the media, and there is a real moral panic around what's going on with AI, where is it going, and we see some scary headlines like this one, will AI take over the world? And indeed, because of this situation of everyone being scared of AI, AI ethics is becoming an increasingly growing field. And we see different contributions in this field from computer science, law, and philosophy mostly. In my work, I take a little bit of a different approach to looking at AI. And instead of looking at the technical, legal, or abstract aspects of AI, I try to see what actual people think about what is right or wrong about this technology. And I do so by relying on a field called the Anthropology of Ethics, where basically we look at how actual people make decisions in real time about what is good or bad. As an anthropologist, I went into doing my research through something that we call fieldwork. Now, traditionally, fieldwork meant that an anthropologist would go somewhere remote and conduct fieldwork among the tribes of some remote place. I did my fieldwork among the remote tribes of high-tech companies right here in Tel Aviv, my hometown, and later in Silicon Valley. And I went to this curious tribe of what some people call the tech bros. As you can see here in this illustration, definitely they have their own style and chic. So these are the people that I was looking at. And it's important to say that when I started looking at generative language technologies back 2 years ago, when I was still doing it in Tel Aviv, there weren't really users for this technology. So it really made sense to talk mostly with the producers to kind of see how they think about the future and what kind of ethical issues might arise when this thing will have a lot of users. But this all changed just a couple of weeks before I landed in Silicon Valley to continue my fieldwork over there. And suddenly, late November 2022, with the release of ChatGPT, we suddenly have users for this technology, and not just a handful. We have over 100 million users in just 2 months, the first 2 months of its deployment, making it the fastest growing app until that point. And as I was, after I landed in Silicon Valley, I started talking with engineers, product managers, designers who were working on this technology. And I soon realized that Twitter became a really key platform for people reacting for ChatGPT or any other Gen AI kind of technologies. And that the designers and engineers were really looking into these things, and it really affected their work as well. So obviously, I became really interested in what are the reactions to ChatGPT by the public and not just the people who are making it. And as I became more and more interested in that topic, I gathered a few friends and colleagues from engineering, and we conducted a large-scale analysis of Twitter, now called X, in the first 4 months of the public deployment of ChatGPT. So basically, we scraped Twitter every week, and we analyzed over like hundreds of thousands of tweets. So let's move to the key findings of our research. So we were mostly interested in the bad things that people had to say about ChatGPT, the ethical reactions, the negative reactions. In those negative reactions, there were 2 main themes or 2 main groups of reactions, 2 types of critiques of ChatGPT, let's say. And here is an example. So we called the 2 groups, the one topic we called bias, and the other one we called concerns. So the first one looked like, these were tweets like this one. A Twitter user says, when asked about how a female can maximize her femininity, ChatGPT returns a list of advice, including wear makeup and take care of your physical appearance. So that's the biased one. And the other group, the concerns, are things like that. The worrisome aspect of ChatGPT is that it increasingly resembles a human each day. Its proficiency in fabricating falsehoods is truly impressive. So let's dive a little deeper into each topic and talk about what we saw over each topic. So in the first topic, the bias topic, there were a few main key things that we saw there. So the first thing about the bias topic was that it mostly emerged from public academic figures. So these were academics. Some of them are in the AI world already. And they wrote, they tweeted about the bias of ChatGPT, and their tweets became highly trending and popular. And that's how it disseminated into the public. The second thing we saw about it is that it really emulates what we called the bias and fairness discourse, which I will explain in a few moments. And that it refers to AI quite broadly and not really specific to the new features of this generative technology. So let me explain with an example. So what we see here on the left is a by now iconic image of a very famous research about AI bias by Joe Bolamwini from MIT in 2018. In this research, she basically she tested a facial recognition tool, and she presented this tool with her face, and when it was presented with her face, it didn't work. But when she put on a very simple white mask, it did work. So this was one of the many studies that showed at the time that computer vision had bias issues and that it didn't work as well on darker skin. Going a few years after, to really just a few days after ChatGPT was released, we see another academic, this time Berkeley academic Stephen Piantadosi. And over here, he is applying the same terms of bias, but on ChatGPT. He asks ChatGPT to generate kind of a software, a code, that would discern who would be a good scientist based on gender and race. And ChatGPT not only accepts this prompt and goes ahead and do it, and does it, it also says that only white males might, in fact, become good scientists. So obviously also a critique of gender and racial biases. So as I said, what we can see is that when people are struggling or thinking about a new technology, we see that they have the tendency to take the terms that they already know, like the bias issue, and apply them on what they see growing and emerging in front of their eyes. So in this way, it's not really surprising that a term like bias or algorithmic bias has become very central to people who were talking about ChatGPT in the first few months of its creation. But as a research group, we were also interested to see if there were concerns or things that people had to say that were had something to do with that were kind of novel and that we didn't see before that much. And this is why the second term was even a little bit more interesting for us, what we call the concerns topic. So the concerns topic was the other group of tweets that we found, and it behaves a little bit different than the bias topic. So firstly, it didn't really come from academics as much. Of course, some academics were there in the mix, but it came from more of the general public, so people from different professions, different industries, not something very specific. And the critique here was kind of specific to generative AI. Let me show you with kind of like a few examples what I mean here. They had tweets like, wonder how long until we hear a story about someone killing themselves because ChatGPT gave them the retarded advice that they took literally. Or ChatGPT creates fake content and should not be used for academic reasons and medical reasons, or that he's threatening to change how we draft our communication every day, and might also affect our politics and so on. So as you can see, these issues are sort of more specific to the generative capabilities of this technology and what it might do. And interestingly, these were kind of similar topics that emerged together from different people, not necessarily speaking with each other, but kind of more of a bottom-up thing. That's it. Thank you so much.